Welcome to episode 46 of Why Not Read Alpha Flight with Tom Flynn
and Chris Baker, a podcast where we take your favorite series seriously. Spring is happening all around us, a symbol of new life and new beginnings, and we have a new beginning for Canada's premier superhero team as we embark on a 4-part Dream Queen saga with new writer James D. Hudnall. Starting off with pencils from Hugh Haynes, the first issue is the last he will do for Alpha Flight before handing duties over to John Calimee for a year or so with some others mixed in. It's springtime for Alpha and Canada.
Was that a producer's joke?
It is indeed. Love me some Mel Brooks. I have long said that Bill Mantlow's run felt like a road trip to Dubuque. The trip is fun and all, but when it ends, you're in Dubuque. Today, friends, dear listeners, we arrive in Dubuque, where the car promptly stalls out, emitting smoke from the engine and the tailpipe, and all 4 wheels fall off. The car is disabled, and it will take a while to get fixed.
Isn't Dubuque a geographical oddity 2 weeks from everywhere else? Kind of like Pennsylvania. No matter how you drive across Pennsylvania, it takes at least 6 hours.
See, that was actually a "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" joke.
Ah.
Well, isn't that just a geographical oddity? 2 weeks from everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good poll. I totally missed it.
My father-in-law pretty much grew up in the world that got washed away in the flood at the end of that movie, because the whole point of that movie was to show a world that got washed away.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was very much a, hey, this is truer than anybody wants to admit, friend. Movie. My father-in-law. Also, October Sky.
Interesting. That's an interesting. That's a very interesting combination of movies.
Oh, he got into aeronautics and in the army, flying helicopters for Nam, and that's how he got out of that world where people didn't wear shoes, because he knew the army was the only way he was going to do that at the height of Vietnam.
You know, we have come so far in such a short time, and we are doing our absolute damnedest to just roll it all back. Fuck.
Anyway, back to Dubuque. Now that we're here, we're just going to turn around and head home. The vibe. Killed. Everyone's grumpy. Smells like feet. We will always remember the drive to Dubuque and never forget the drive home.
The script has me saying, is this bleakness from the comics or from waves my hands around? But I think I pretty much covered that already with my earlier statement. So here we are.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off, Tom. We have hit and passed peak Alpha Flight.
But we're only halfway through.
Halfway through Volume 1.
As a good visual, we are basically both Ben Affleck smoking that cigarette right now. Yeah?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
We are halfway through, and we have already hit both peaks.
So, Chris, I want to posit something. The shift from Byrne to Mantlo, while we did not enjoy the early Mantlo and his treatment of certain characters and his approach in general, and it was jarring, tonally, sure. But it felt like a continuation. There was some continuity to the situation. And while this is picking up in the middle of the story, it does not feel like a continuation. It feels like an absolute rupture.
There's tying off loose ends, and then there's burning off loose ends with your Bic. You know? We're burning off loose ends here.
So I say all that to say, how and even why do we do a story so far at this moment?
Yeah, I wish I could chalk it up to a new writer who dis and say we'll cover what we need as it comes up, but that's like everything. So we're going to have a kind of differently structured episode today, listeners. Still talking about what happens in the issues and to the characters we've grown so fond of, except for Whitman Knapp. But there's going to be a lot of creator and editorial intrigue that needs to be explained to make that stuff make sense.
And for a nice change of pace, we actually have some of that in the form of interviews done by the creators themselves with alphaflight.net, which is not currently accessible, but fortunately, friend of the pod, Daryl Lawrence, who literally wrote the book on Alpha Flight, had archived those interviews and was kind enough to share them with us. And listeners, as a reminder, Daryl's book is titled True North. It is available most anywhere, bnn.com. If you click on any of Daryl's bio info, he'll have links there. It's a great way to get the download on issues missing in your collections, as well as various insights scattered throughout. He also co-hosts the X Factor Files Investigations podcast that covers Alpha Flight pretty regularly.
And thanks to alphaflight.net and the people there for doing these interviews in the first place. There's not a lot of extant discussion about stuff like this as it pertains to Alpha Flight because, let's face it, it wasn't interesting or important enough to be more than a footnote in Byrne and Mantlow's portfolios at this point in time. But this transition was weird and chaotic and notable enough to get documented. So thank you, folks. If you're listening, which you very well might be, or know who we should get in touch with regarding that whole website, please reach out to us at whynotehpod@gmail.com. We'd love to talk. I did read through the interviews with James Hudnall and John Calimee, and let me tell you, they are a treat. I will be dropping real-world stuff in as fact, and if you wonder how I know, this is your reference, okay? It's from those interviews. What happened was, Bill Mantlo got fired from Alpha Flight after issue 66. Hudnall says as much.
Wait. This wasn't just a planned handoff. They just fired him mid-series.
Yeah. Hudnall was specifically brought on to do issue number 63 as a test run to see if he could handle the book, and he passed the test. We loved that issue.
Yeah, it was a good issue.
It was the Goodfellas issue, you know? And then none of this stuff is like that. So, yeah, that new format they were promising, not just the shift over to direct sales only for Alpha Flight, but the promise of kind of getting Bill into shape, didn't play out. So they were navigating Bill out and getting everything positioned there. At the time of firing, Bill had been working toward a 4-issue Dream Queen arc.
Again?
And Hudnall tried to follow through on Bill's plan as best he could. Editorial teamed him up with, how shall we put this politely, budding artist Jim Calimee, and in hopes that they would be able to right the ship. Hudnall says that associate editor Marc McLaurin, quote unquote, micromanaged a lot of writing decisions, that Hudnall wanted to do these things, and McLaurin was always up in his face saying, how about we do this? How about we do that? And apparently Bill wasn't coming up with ideas and kind of pestering the editorial team saying, hey, where are you wanting this to go? And he wasn't providing that writer inspiration of driving us somewhere, which, I mean, we all can tell that. Hudnall wrote in the Alan Moore style, where he would deliver what is referred to as a tome-like script to the artist. And Calimee, according to Hudnall, was just not up to the challenge of bringing Hudnall's vision to life. These interviews really, these guys never met. They never spoke with each other. They dealt with each other by mail. But boy, neither of them was happy working with the other.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from the Calimee side yet, but Hudnall sounds like a real prick.
Calimee says that he wants to sit down and have a worst diss off, the most hated comics creator in existence competition, and he wants to sit down with Liefeld and be like, hey, Rob, I once received a letter from 3 10-year-olds saying that they weren't going to continue reading Alpha Flight. Have you ever been dissed in crayon, Rob? Have you ever had to read it? I have.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Oh boy. We tell you all that to tell you this. A lot happens in the next 4 issues, and it's not that it doesn't make sense. More that it feels like a hot mess. Like they're resetting the book on the fly, and the script and the art goes a long way to making it feel crappy. Like whatever else Hudnall thinks about his script and his writing, the opening to the 4th issue that we're going to cover today, because yeah, folks, we're burning through all 4 because we just want it behind us. So do you. The opening writing, junior year of high school at best. Like it was not. It was also just a complete repeat of his openings for the past 3 issues. Every issue in this arc reestablishes who is what, like going back to the beginning. It's infuriating and a waste of everyone's time.
Okay. Hold on. I'm clipping the leash back on Tom. We got time. So factor in also that this book takes a hard turn towards horror. because Hudnall tells us that he was told to make it more horror-like. And there's a different tone to the violence that, we're going to talk about. And yeah, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this is a totally different book that just happens to have characters who look a little bit like Alpha Flight.
Because it's such a mess, and because this is really just a hard reset, we're going to move pretty fast here. There's not going to be a lot of narrative, no terrible radio play like last time.
Oh, man.
We're going to hit the highlights because none of the how really matters. The only goal is to get the hell out of Dubuque, and everyone involved in making the book is focused on that goal.
It's 178 miles from Dubuque to Chicago. We got a half charge in the EV. Penn Stiller failed to report for duty this morning, and we're in fucking Iowa. It's sunrise, and we're headed east.
Hit it. Wait, is that actually how far it is from Dubuque to Chicago?
It is. I looked it up.
I really thought it'd be further. Is it? Huh.
Me too. It's 336 driving miles from St. Louis to Dubuque.
Well, this isn't an idiots out walking around podcast. It's an Alpha Flight podcast, and that means sex, death, and failure. In this case, the sex is going to be problematic and traumatizing, and if that isn't your thing, we're sorry, we didn't write it.
You know what? But I did write that. I did write if that isn't your thing. I'm sorry to everybody. I shouldn't have written it that way.
Well, fair. That point is fair. However, we're not the ones that wrote the horrific sex on the page. We will be making an effort to let you know how far to skip ahead to avoid those parts if they're just not what you want to listen to. Like, we're not going to be obviously going into anything graphic, and it's not like it's graphic on the page, but we're going to have to touch on it.
Especially because narratively, this doesn't matter. It's just a way to show how evil the character is. So we can't stall any longer, Tom.
Man, Hudnall. Way to do the old woman in the refrigerator thing before it's actually become a meme.
Actually, you don't now. I'm sorry. We've done too much spontaneous research already. Now I want to know when the fridge scene happened. Because, that
was Kyle Rayner as Green Lantern. So it was at least the mid 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Rayner.
Another thing Alpha Flight does first.
Oh, great. Like,
I mean, it's been going on forever. It's just the fridge is a convenient meme form of it.
Yeah. It has to be the mid 90s because Rayner takes over as Green Lantern after the whole Parallax thing, or Hal goes crazy and whatnot. And that would have been like early to mid 90s. So yeah.
Alpha Flight number 67, titled The Ties That Bind, cover date February 1989, script by James D. Hudnall, pencils by Hugh Haynes, inks by Gerry Talaoc, letters by Janice Chiang, colors by Bob Sharen, associates by Marc McLaurin, edits by Carl Potts, and Tom DeFalco as archaeologist in chief.
You know, at least that one has some pertinence to this issue. And before we go any further, I guarantee you that we will have a Hudnall form of an expletive, much like our Mantlo, at some point. And I think it's going to be like low and breathy of Chris just being like, Hudnall. I see that in our future.
I don't think a lot of it resonates moving forward in the same way that Mantlo does. Like, we're going to be cursing Mantlo through the rest of Volume 1 at least.
On the cover, we have a close-up of the Dream Queen's face looking evilly at the reader, holding a green globe with people doing stuff inside it.
I couldn't figure out who it was. I think that's Purple Girl.
Doesn't matter. A lot of teeth again.
A lot of teeth. Took me a while to realize that was her, like, licking her teeth with her tongue and not her teeth being different heights.
Oh, God.
Comic Vine says the cover is by Carl Potts and Jim Lee in that order, and I don't know what to make of that combination of names.
Opening page isn't a splash. That's page 2, but it is... We're not in Kansas anymore, are we? The art is jarringly different, especially with the Jim Lee cover bait and switch.
Elizabeth Two-Youngman is digging through the cairn she discovered in her archaeology work with a coworker that looks unnecessarily like Walter Lankowski. Did you pick up on that too?
A little bit, like...
I was like, what the fuck is Walt doing here?
Yeah.
He's got the hair, he's got the glasses. You didn't need to do that. Pick one. Make the hair a different color, or don't give him glasses. Well, it's a Superman rule. Anyway, they uncover the splash page, a human skeleton staked to the ground of the cairn with a scrap of loincloth and a torch-looking thing between his leg bones. And it's not done in a way that that Byrne would have done this, or even Mignola would have done this. This is done intentionally to be dancing with grotesque. Like, it is telling us, we're getting into a horror, a different kind of story here. This does not look like how it would have been done 6 issues ago.
But with it being Haynes versus Calimee, it's slightly
it helps.
It's stronger. Like it is stronger. I mean, like I don't wish to shit on anyone, but
Haynes is doing just fine here. It
seems like once we get into the Calimee issues that he may have been a little bit out of his depth, and that that happens to people. It is what it is.
If there is no struggle, there is no progress, Tom.
Scene change to the Dream Queen's origin, because we always have to have an origin,
and this is where we'll let you know.
800 years ago, a succubus is digesting her latest meal of, and this is written into the narration box, her stolen man essence, when she is captured by Nightmare, the evil ruler of the dream dimension and frequent foe of Doctor Strange and the Hulk, but since this is 800 years ago, he's probably known better for other work at the time. He feeds off the fear of humans when they dream and is a necessary part of human existence because that energy would drive humans collectively insane if not regulated through him.
This is the moment where we're going to tell you to go ahead and skip forward about 1 minute, and we'll see you there.
This necessary part of the cosmic balance of things then rapes the succubus and impregnates her. And the way lesser demons like succubi reproduce, in Hudnall's writing, that he is totally in charge of, that he could have made any choice about whatsoever, they burst into flames and their daughter rises from the ashes with all her mother's memories and also conveniently aged about 22, so the naked form rising is okay to look at despite being minutes old.
Kind of like Snowbird.
This is just fucked up. Like there's no reason to structure it this way other than to make something really tragic and sick about the Dream Queen's origin and make Nightmare seem even more evil. I mean, it's
this used to be a book for kids.
And also it's a death. So if you're not operating a vehicle and otherwise in space to get absolutely sauced, or you just have a tasty beverage nearby, it doesn't need to be alcohol, take a drink. We'll put in the sound effects, but for God's sake, in this 4-issue stretch, do not try to keep up.
All of Hudnall. No, the deaths just keep coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming. Look, they're all on page.
If you're just enjoying your coffee, don't try and keep up, because you're going to have to get 3 or 4 more, and that's just too much caffeine, my man.
Yeah, you're going to vibrate through space and time, although I guess technically we're all vibrating through space and time all the time, aren't we?
And that's how the Dream Queen came to be. Nightmare leaves her in her own dream realm that she can't get out of, and kind of sort of hints that when he gets the urge again in a couple hundred years, he might be back to make a new whatever she is.
Oh, this book is so fucked up. They spent pages on this. 5 pages on this part of the story. It was unnecessary. But, for as fucked up as Alpha Flight is, I still love this book. It's all Alpha Flight, even the parts you hate, especially the parts you hate.
We at this point know her deal. She can shape the world around her, but nothing is real, and she has evil and perverse appetites, which get
fleshed out,
reinforced throughout this arc.
350 years ago, a drought forced a Canadian shaman to seek out the rain gods for aid, and as he walked the spirit realm, the Dream Queen caught him and used him to make a hole into our world for the first time, sending terror dreams to everyone except the shaman, who sees a lovely rain and is oblivious to what's being done around and through him. She sends the torch-looking thing, she calls it a weapon of fear, from the splash page through the portal to test if it's safe for her to go. But before she can move through it, a warrior of the tribe straight up spears the shaman to death because Nightmare gave him a nightmare about the fear weapon and warned him that to touch it is to die. So there's another death. Nightmare shows up to gloat over the Dream Queen because he just keeps doing that whenever she fails.
The Chickaquah tribe proceeds to stake the shaman to the ground where he died, built the cairn around him, and laid the evil totem, but very carefully using cloth so as not to make actual contact with it, next to him, and tried to make sure no one would ever enter. Centuries later, Laura Dean sends Goblin to the Dream Queen's dimension, aka Live World, and the DQ takes a different approach. I forgot we did that. The DQ takes a different approach this time, being nice and making the world pleasant for Goblin until she makes her move. That we already saw. In the 4-part Dream Queen saga, that we're learning about now in the second 4-part Dream Queen saga. So it was like the first half of his tome, just like rewriting the Byrne and Mantlo runs, like
a bit. When Puck, or should we say Giant Judd, pulled the Dream Queen back into Live World back in issue number 60 and trapped himself inside, she took him prisoner. And again, this comes from the narration box. Quote, she tormented Puck, making him a slave to her perverse pleasures.
All this exposition has been dumped into Elizabeth Two Young Men's mind in a dream sent by Snowbird? Elizabeth wakes up in her bed at the dig, but only wearing her underwear, and that's a different conversation we're not going to get into. The other dig workers under the DQ spell are trying to get Elizabeth to touch the fear weapon so the DQ can steal Elizabeth's powers and come through the portal that will thus be generated, fully capable of...
It doesn't matter. Look, the DQ is controlling the people around her, whatever. Elizabeth's powers suddenly come back. She runs outside and steals a car. Like, seriously, that's all that matters. We've already had 21 of 28 pages devoted to all of this info dump that just got crammed into Elizabeth's head by a dead character we haven't seen. Like, there is no artfulness to this.
You know what? You're right. I was reverting to our previous form. We can pick up a little bit of speed.
We're never going to get out of Dubuque if we try to make this like sensible talk.
It's how Dubuque works.
So Elizabeth steals a car. She did not stop to put on pants, which I do find to be a delightfully silly touch.
Scene change to all the other members of Alpha and Beta Flight gathered at 138 Laurier Drive after being apart for a while, kind of like this is a John Byrne issue.
All except for Whitman, why don't you have a seat right over here? Knapp, who has given up on the superheroing. I wish we could say he died on the way back to his home planet, but alas, he will return.
Damn it. Before they can do anything in this issue, the Dream Queen is there with a bunch of green energy swirling around the team's heads. And again, what the fuck did I just say?
Just wait, friend. I told you things happen. The how isn't as important as getting out of Dubuque. Alpha Flight number 68, titled All That We Are, cover date March 1989. Same credits as before, except John Calimee comes on as penciler and Sam Delarosa is inker. Tom DeFalco is the editor in here, which I kind of like that one.
On the cover, the Dream Queen is evilly posing. I mean, we just assume if she's posing, it's evil. On Heather and Madison's living room coffee table over a defeated Alpha and Beta Flight, slumped around Heather and Madison's living room couches.
You know, it's nice to have a good old-fashioned Alpha Flight team meeting in the living room. I'll say that.
All we need is the thing.
The book opens with Elizabeth somehow wearing a dress of some sort, possibly a burlap sack. The art is a little muddled. As we get going in the issue, Tom, what do you think about this transition into the opening of the Calimee era?
I don't know what to make of it.
It's different.
It's very different. Like he has a style.
It's simpler.
I don't know that I totally dig it. I also think that in the action scenes that we'll get into, it gets very muddled and very unclear unless it's like a set piece. Like there are certain specific ones that you can get, it gets across, but usually it's the aftermath of action or violence. In the midst of it, it's really hard to tell what he's trying to get across.
You remember when you would be like flipping channels on a Sunday afternoon as a kid, and you would come across a show and it just felt different, and you realize it was public access. It's not just a different sensibility and kind of a different way of doing things and a different way of framing and lighting and all that stuff. No, it's got all of that, but it's also done at a noticeable level lower than what we are accustomed to in the format that we're watching. So yeah, I guess the difference would be your basic broadcast network TV from 1989 versus public access broadcast from 1989, which I guess would mean Wayne's World. So yeah, the art is definitely different. It is both detailed and also a bit generic. I appreciate the coloring is consistent. I think that really helps. And the inking, but it focuses on different things. It focuses on different motions and moments than the artists we've seen so far. And from Hudnall saying how detailed his scripts were, I think that is part of how detailed his descriptions were, that we were trying to describe something, but then the execution is, it's there.
Yeah, there's also something weird about like the larger group shots that are in a smaller panel. Like the perspective just feels awkward. But
yeah, there's a lot. Even Hudnall in the interview says that, yeah, he went through art school, but they didn't teach him anything at all about perspective or how to set up any of the stuff that he needed to do. So he had this degree and then suddenly was like looking up stuff and having to learn on the fly how to foreshorten arms and things like that.
That's right.
That
Hudnall said that, or Calimee said that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Calimee said that.
No, that's fine.
Excuse me. And that lack of technical proficiency is something that he very much owns up to. And he teaches art at a community college now. Like, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's done other stuff, but it's noticeable here that he's got his first job in, not first, but practically his first job in what's going on.
Picking back up on the issue, Elizabeth calls Heather's house and the DQ answers. There's a bunch of villain laughing and "I'll kill you" declarations from Elizabeth, and DQ saunters off into Ottawa to do some evil shite.
Elizabeth drives an hour to the airport, takes a 3-hour flight, gets into a vehicle that looks exactly like the one she was using at the archaeological dig, and bursts into Heather's house, still piping hot mad. I thought her powers came back. She can teleport people, including herself, right?
My memory is that before she had the talisman, she was able to manipulate and control mystical energies, but it wasn't like she could generate things. I think she needs the talisman itself to actually like have full access to the breath of power. But you know what? Why are we doing this?
Right. The rule book was thrown out the window some 50 miles back.
To paraphrase noted philosopher Harrison Ford, it ain't that kind of comic book, kid. DQ gets some dude to drive her to Edmonton, then tells him to go play in traffic, and he does, and we see him get hit by a car and come crashing through the windshield. Another death.
Alpha Flight gets into the box jet and flies to the butthole of the world. I mean, the eye of the world. Remember that place? Where Shaman is doing his solitude thing? Apparently, our Blues Brothers gag is paying off. We're getting the band back together, Tom.
Back in Edmonton, DQ has set up her base in the penthouse of the richest man in Edmonton, who she dreamed into jumping out the window and splatting on the ground. Again, narration box official. So that's another death.
Alpha Flight plus Shaman are back in the box jet on their way to Edmonton, blah, blah, blah. Shaman, the tiara of power. Talisman's powers are in her, not tiara, but it is a powerful item, blah, blah. Shaman goes to hand the tiara to Elizabeth when Sasquatch grabs it, X-Factors her way through the box jet wall, and jumps out. Changing into Wanda, she runs to deliver the talisman to Dream Queen, but the team catches up to her, so she puts on the talisman and uses magic to beat up the team because that same magic stuff lets DQ control her magic-formed body? Upward vocal fry?
There have been a couple of different points where, like, the green energy that let the Dream Queen enter our world were seeds that she planted in their heads, which is why they were having nightmares. But honestly, like, it just feels, it's all retroactive. And in that process, before they took off, the Dream Queen was able to do another seed into Wanda's mind to take control when necessary. And basically the trigger was to get the tiara, because if the Dream Queen wears the tiara, even more powerful, etc., etc., etc.
Well, and throughout this fight, Wanda keeps insisting that her name is Walter. And, like, suddenly we have this, no, I'm Walter, I want to be a dude, like, out of nowhere.
I guess we should probably deal with that right now.
As Wanda makes her escape with the talisman, Snowbird appears in ghostly form and undoes the magic stuff that's been done to Wanda to free her from the DQ, and then also undoes the curse and makes Wanda back into our friend, Secret Agent Linebacker, superhero Dr. Walter Lankowski, who once again walks the earth.
Not quite. Snowbird takes advantage of the shape-shifting powers of the body to shape-shift Wanda into the form of Walter. It's not like anything was undone. It's not like Walter got his body back. Technically,
wait, he could have done this at any time?
If he'd known how to do it, yes, is what it seems to be the case.
Oh, is this like when Emma Frost takes over Iceman's body and uses it in ways that Iceman's like, whoa, I didn't know I could do that?
Similar, I guess. But yes, Wanda is arguing that they did this to the team Alpha did this to her and never helped her, and that she's not a her, she's a him, she's Walter, and this is why her nightmares were happening and all this, and it's fuck, man.
It's like half a page, like for the whole thing to play out. And Walter is back there poorly drawn on the page.
Could you possibly just like fucking detonate something that's been handled with some awareness and some consideration, even worse, and just completely like rip the script up? I mean,
Apparently Hudnall said that he wanted to do this like at the end of the Dream Queen, at the end of the 4 issues, and he wanted to build up to it a bit more. But editorial said, no, you're going to do this now. We need to have Walt back. This book is not doing the greatest. There's only one solution here, and it's secret agent linebacker superhero Dr. Walter Lankowski. He is the only hope for this book. Tom is holding his head in his hands.
I don't know why you did this to me. I just don't. Oh, all right.
So Elizabeth gets the talisman back, and there's no time to process this because the DQ's evil and perverted power is spreading exponentially out from Edmonton, which is shown with a page of average people committing horrific violence on each other.
Horrific violence.
Including a man shotgunning his family on page, and I don't mean drinking them, with the blood, so that's 3 drinks. A car plowing down the sidewalk, leaving a mangled body in its path, and about to go headfirst over a helpless woman, so let's call that 2 drinks.
And a panel of people beating each other with clubs, and one guy has a knife, so we'll assume he kills someone with it. That's a drink. I mean, have we surpassed all the drinks to date in Alpha?
It's a lot of perverse violence. And you know what? Laura's like 10 years old here at best. Why? They're bringing a 10-year-old. Kara's not any better. These kids are not okay. Nobody in this version of Beta Flight is being served by Beta Flight.
Nope.
Who gave this Alpha Flight credentials to run a school? The Xavier School is credentialed. Even if they're phony baloney credentials, they at least go through the process.
Yeah, okay.
No, there was a whole gag about the inspector coming in and them kind of having to dial down the weirdness a bit because they were about to lose their accreditation.
I mean, that's funny. And also, like, I was going to say, like, well, yeah, because if you can force them to give you accreditation, like with just a Jedi mind trick, do you really have credentials? I don't know. Next up, Alpha Flight number 69, titled And All That We Seem. Cover date, April 1989. Same creative team as before, except with Hilary Barta on inks, and Tom DeFalco is the Dream Chief.
On the cover, drawn by Jim Lee, the team fights with China Force, with Elizabeth front and center in her crime-fighting prom dress. Hudnall really likes Elizabeth, Tom.
Going back several issues, we find the Jade Dragon fighting with China Force, the team that's been stalking him for several issues up to that point. They eventually end up in the Edmonton Mall where the box jet crashes. China Force thinks they're actually in China, Box gets taken over by the Dream Queen, etc. Alpha Flight fights China Force and forces them through one of Laura's portals back to China. Dae Guan, the Jade Dragon, joins them to go face the judgment of the Chinese government in 1989, and with that kind of decision making, I'm honestly surprised he didn't stay with Alpha Flight, because they can smell their own.
That brings us to Alpha Flight number 70, part 4 of 4 of The Wrath of the Dream Queen, titled, Is But a Dream Within a Dream. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to deliver it properly. That dweem within a dweem. Cover date, May 1989. Same creative team as before, except joining Barta on inks are Sam Delarosa and John Nyberg, and Tom DeFalco is credited as not Canadian, which seems oddly defensive.
Well, there's a reason for that. Before addressing the Tom DeFalco bit, I just want to point out that the last 2 titles are, I didn't double check.
All 4 of them.
Yeah, and All That We Seem is But a Dream Within a Dream is the closing line to an Edgar Allan Poe poem. So that's kind of a nod.
I thought it was Shakespeare.
No, that's kind of a nod to Byrne, I guess, and what he did with some of his titles, but I'm just annoyed by it at this point. The Tom DeFalco credited as not a Canadian. The letters pages in these issues are phenomenal. They are juicy. And I think it was in issue 68, so there would have been time for DeFalco to react to it. There was a letter published complaining about the lack of Canadians working on the book. So I think
you can feel it. You really can.
I think that is him directly responding to that in a somewhat petty way for the editor on a Marvel title. But nonetheless.
On the cover, the first by Calimee, the Dream Queen has her hand wrapped around the throat of Talisman while a couple generic thugs hold her down like it's a kink.com preview still.
And that's actually pretty accurate to what happens in the book.
Yeah.
The thugs are actually dressed less kink.com than they will be inside the issue. Hudnall seems to really emphasize the DQ's perverse pleasures in ways that he interprets the phrase, and that's a bit, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about any of this. Was this heavily detailed by Hudnall and he nailed it? Was this his interpretation of Hudnall's script? I don't know. It just...
I think Hudnall is turning scripts in that are making Alpha Flight into his personal erotica season.
But like you said, this used to be a book for kids, and it has run far, far away from that.
In the book, the team makes their way through the building DQ is holed up in until Laura can create a portal behind her and Elizabeth punches her through it. Yeah, there's some other stuff, but the whole point is just to end this and go somewhere else again.
In the aftermath, Box says...
Does this mean we're going to be a team again?
And Elizabeth replies, yes, there's no other way we can survive.
Heather replies,
what makes you say that?
And Elizabeth answers,
because the worst is yet to come.
Well, she's not wrong. I'll give her that. The end. We made it, Tom. We made it out of Dubuque.
Yeah, except... point of order, Puck's still in the Dream Queen's dimension.
Getting almost death by snoo-snooed every day and then magically healed back into order. So just...
Look.
Wow.
Look.
A lot of things happened here.
This is something of a refrain of ours. You know, we are attempting to take this comic seriously, and that is our goal. I think we do a very good job of that. Sometimes it means we're critical, and when we feel like it deserves praise, and even when we feel like we went in the wrong direction and we need to reassess previous statements, we do that. So I don't want this to sound like we're just shitting all over like 4 issues of this comic or saying that this is doomed from the start, but especially with the editorial insight that those interviews offer, this is a mess. Like, these 4 issues are a hot mess, and it feels to me like they're almost crippling the run from the start in some respects. And that's, I always hold out hope that the writers, the artists, everyone involved, the editors will really figure it out and really like nail it and bring something good. And I feel like the last few Mantlo issues, we were appropriately laudatory of, that they really did things well, and that there was something, it was different, but it was working really well and working in a way that the middle of his run just kind of didn't. So I'm reserving judgment until we get further in. But this, if I was a regular reader and I'd started with Byrne and I went through Mantlo and I got to this, I would have been one of those 10-year-old girls writing in crayon saying I quit.
Well, and also the people who would have started reading this would be starting to age out. You know, like there's a limited lifespan of how long somebody is reading monthly comic books. You know what I mean? Like, there comes a time where the book either grows up with the people who have been growing up with the book, or those people grow out of that book and move on to other books so that book stays at the level for the, 12-year-olds or whatever. And balancing that out is a hard thing for a book to do as it matures. Also, when you mentioned like the middle of Mantlo's run, that was when he said, look, we're going to be a superhero team. We're going to be together. We're going to have a home base. We're going to act like the Canadian Avengers. And that has never been Alpha Flight's strong suit.
Right.
That the structure laid down by Byrne that gave it the flavor of very character driven. It is hard to recreate that. And I think that every time Alpha Flight as a book goes hard back into the government team with a home base and it's about the team all the time, that doesn't work for the book. But also when it pulls away and doesn't do that, that also doesn't work for the book.
I think Mantlo by the end started to figure out like how to interact with some of the characters or deal with the characters.
That's what
in
it was
interesting
feeling
ways.
like to me.
Right?
Yes.
what Byrne did, and two, I mean, I guess 2 points what you're saying about how comic readers age out and that, that tension with how a book changes or doesn't. First, totally, I can see wanting to move it into a more mature direction to try and hold those same readers. However, going from being 16 to being 28 with a divorce behind you, which is kind of like what this book feels like, and getting really into bondage, is a pretty radical jump from one issue to the next. Just going to put that out there. Second point, that was one of the things that I really appreciated about Byrne's run. It had mature themes that could keep your 20-year-old comic reader, 30-year-old comic reader interested and not feel like they're being talked down to, but handled in such a way that the 12-year-old wouldn't necessarily pick up on them or would interpret them in a way that would be okay.
Age appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where this does not allow for that. Like,
yeah. It's a lot of comics as we're entering the 90s, is that the same dynamics that we've been talking about the reader base aging up and changing. I mean, the same thing happened in the transition from the Silver Age into the Bronze Age, is that was the people who grew up reading the comic books were now taking over creating the comic books. And it was a new generation of readers reading a new type of story and storytelling geared for that new generation of readers. And now as we enter the 90s and we move from the Bronze Age into the Plastic Age, that generational shift is going to become more and more apparent as we move forward. And it kind of applies across all the everything. It's where the meta narrative of what society and business and all that stuff are doing come crashing into the creative content that produces these comics as physical artifacts of that time, which makes all of this so interesting. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah. We got through it. We ripped the Band-Aid off. We're out of Dubuque.
I am going to give credit here. We describe it as a kink.com preview still, but I actually liked this cover for issue number 70. I appreciated that Elizabeth's face looked scared in a way that we complimented Byrne for pulling off with Aurora on issue number 5, which you just spent a day at C2E2
2 days
wearing 2 days wearing the cover of issue number 5 as a shirt.
Got a lot of compliments on that one.
That's a wonderful cover. It's very memorable.
Also really, the shirt's really well done too. Like they actually, it's off center in a way that looks a little weird at first, but actually works really well to make it clear what it is. And it's good
bootleg merchandise, man.
It did such a good job of advertising Alpha Flight. Like people were like, "Oh, Alpha Flight," constantly in a way that the Puck costumes didn't quite land last year.
Yeah, well, they connect with a certain deep nerd.
Yep.
Oh, you were right that all 4 issues had a lot of text to them and a lot of heavy writing to it. But boy, you're right to call out the opening of issue 70. It is a solid page of text. It's amazing.
And if the writing was phenomenal and you're setting up for this grand final battle, which ends up being kind of a nothing burger, that's fine. But
this page looks like him trying to be Alan Moore.
Yeah, and it just doesn't land. Like it just doesn't, and that's fine. That's actually more on the editors for being like, nah, man, this doesn't work.
I will say on issue number 70, the splash page, issue 2, where they all run out of the portal, there's a slightly different take on the box armor, and I do appreciate that. I have some coloring choices, but I like the shape. It's much more streamlined, even though this was more streamlined than the Roger Box version of the armor.
Sure.
I appreciate Calimee's take on this, and I think it's cool. He looks dynamic. Just the faceplate is all weird.
Chris, we have left Dubuque. Where are we headed to next? Because something tells me that we don't make it to the promised land of Chicago. So where are we breaking down next along the road?
I did not look up any waypoints between Dubuque and Chicago, so we're probably going to end up in Quincy, which is another geographical oddity that is somehow 3 hours from everywhere. For those of you who didn't grow up in downstate Illinois, Quincy is the capital of what is called Forgotonia, because due to a variety of how the roads and highways and whatnot work, the western bump of Illinois, if you can imagine that, is like its own area that nobody ever goes to because nothing goes through there. it is Forgotonia. People forget about it. So Quincy is located there. Quincy, beautiful town. Lovely once you get there. It's just, that's where we're going, I guess. We're going to Quincy.
Quincy it is.
Quincy or bust.
Quincy or bust. Why Not Read Alpha Flight is made possible by listeners like you who subscribe to our Patreon, and by the Excelsior Embroidery Company, part of the Roxxon family of companies, and legally required to say it is proud to be an official sponsor of the Donald J. Trump America 250th celebration at the Donald J. Trump Center for the Arts and Chicken Wing Emporium. Please don't park in the Circle K's lot, they will tow you. See the new Roxxon trucker hat and hundreds more designs at excelsiorembroidery.etsy.com, where listeners of Why Not can use the coupon code WN503 to get 50% off any 3 items in the store.
Why Not Read Alpha Flight with Chris and Tom is recorded in Chicago, Illinois, and deep beneath stately Baker Manor in a fashionable neighborhood outside St. Louis. It is written by Chris Baker, edited by Tom Flynn, with additional cat noises courtesy of Teeny the Vocal Calico. Our theme song is O Canada by Five Iron Frenzy. New episodes are released every second and fourth Monday of the month at www.thewhynotpod.com and wherever you get your podcasts, where ratings and reviews are always welcome as a way to help our community grow. And we love hearing from our community. You can reach us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and by email at whynotehpod@gmail.com. Join us next time as we overdose on magic when James Hudnall brings in his new big bad for the team, the Sorcerer.
Which sorcerer?
It's just the Sorcerer. He's the kind that doesn't need a qualifier or name. He's the only one you could be talking about.
Even I know there are so many sorcerers in Marvel Comics. How can he, a character created in 1989, claim to be the Sorcerer? It's like the world's best cup of coffee gag in Elf.
Look, think of him like Prince. He's not a prince of anything. There are many with that title, but this one is just the one word and everybody goes with it.
Now I miss Prince again.
As all right-thinking people do. See you next time, folks.